Hey all, Dr. Jared here. Appreciate you taking the time to really dive into our 2025 gut reset. As you likely already know, the gut is responsible for so much more than digestion, and especially with our most popular new blockbuster drugs, specifically affecting the gut for weight loss, diabetes, and a variety of other things. This is certainly a hot topic, but also over the years, there's been all sorts of research showing how the gut affects your metabolism, your weight gain or loss, your energy levels, your sleep quality, how clear you think, how happy you are, and so many more things. And so really our main goal for this seminar is to expose you to and get you to think about what you're doing to support your gut, what things may be really significantly helping or hurting your gut, and you don't even realize it. And as much as anything, empower you to make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and those you love and care about. So, looking at that, starting with our seminar, there's just a reality that 70 million Americans or more have gut disorders. This is caused by a variety of things, from what we eat with processed foods or preservatives or antibiotics that are in meat or dairy, or the antibiotics that are consumed in humans for a variety of life-saving and non-life-saving conditions. But even more than that, just the gut itself is affected by our current Western lifestyle, even things like Roundup in food and GMOs. And there's so many things. So again, really what we're going to do is try and expose you to those things, and also help you realize that if you are suffering with something, or if you're feeling something, even going back to chronic pain, like I talk for a lot of people right now, they talk about chronic pain in their hands. And we'll go into a little bit later why that is or how it happens. So you may have a gut dysfunction or gut dysbiosis and not even know it. You could even also have bacterial imbalances and so many more. But some symptoms that are common but not normal if you have gut interference or gut imbalance: fatigue, bloating, weight changes, sleep problems, mood swings, food sensitivity, allergies, skin issues, brain fog, and pain. Those are not an all-encompassing list, but a list nonetheless. And so if you have symptoms like that, including the skin conditions of acne, which is super common in teenagers and way more common over the last 30 years than, let's say, maybe some of you that are in the, let's say, the Medicare age range would have had in high school or something like that. But also eczema is very much linked to the gut, but also a variety of other things: red or dry inflamed skin, rosacea. Also, you may or may not know that hormone imbalances. So when people say, I'm going through menopause, or I have low T, or some of those things also can be affected by the gut. And we're going to cover those one by one here in a moment. But starting with brain fog, I was watching this Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and they had a guest on that was specifically talking about compounding pharmacies, peptides, Ozempic or the like. And they got into a conversation about Twinkies. And it was like, well, Twinkies, frankly, at least at the very, very initial, like the first touch to your tongue, I think it's somewhat non-debatable that Twinkies might taste good, but between the chemicals, the sugar, the food colorings, all the different stuff that's in there, pretty quickly, if you're healthy and you really already feel good, you'll feel like crap pretty quickly. Additionally, if you have gut bacterial dysfunction, neurotransmitters, which are most linked with mood, like serotonin and dopamine, but other neurotransmitters, there's a brain-gut connection. And so if you're having trouble thinking, you may want to look at what you're eating, or you may want to look at how your digestion is. How many antibiotics have you been on, and the like, and what are you doing to, on a daily basis, help heal and repair your gut? Because at some level, there, if you're eating like even a healthy but typical American, you're exposing your body to a variety of things that are going to damage your gut bacteria. One of the ways to know that your body is not healing when you sleep is if you wake up tired, even after you sleep. And so there is a possibility that your mitochondria, which is your powerhouse in your cells, might not be getting enough fuel. And so I mentioned briefly already, but 90% of all serotonin production is produced in the gut. So, and I'll tell you, I had actually had an experience with this recently where, well, I thought and think that I do have a healthy gut, just being exposed to things when I was younger, when I was maybe less holistic. My wife and I are doing a supplement protocol to kill off parasites. And that is a whole different seminar, a whole topic for another day. But it's a parasite cleanse, and it starts with opening up your detox pathways and realigning your gut. And in the die-off of the bad bacteria for about 10 to 11 days, I had what's medically called gut dysbiosis. And even though all I was taking was supplements, I was getting enough sleep, I was working out, I was getting adjusted, for probably the first time in my life, I felt what I believe was depression. Like, it was blah. I couldn't feel good. I didn't necessarily feel terrible, but clearly there was a blockage in serotonin production in my gut. And literally as soon as I tapered back on this gut cleanse and gut repair, I went to half doses. Within a couple of days, my mood came back, my serotonin must have regulated. And once we got past a certain point where the gut was lined properly, I've never felt that again, but it was amazing to me. And it makes me really, I would say, more empathetic when somebody is, mentally struggling, but also, when somebody is, whether it's mental struggle or trouble with sleep or any of these things, one thing to really look at is, while it's maybe not fair, it's maybe not pleasant, it still falls on us, or I'll say even the collective us, the people we love and care about, to really look at what is the root cause of this problem, and how can you, or the collective you, help the body to heal from that. And so, with when you talk about mood, again, 90% of serotonin is made in your gut. And so helping your body heal, choosing to eat cleaner. Those of you that came to the nutrition workshop last month, or that went to the shop with a nutritionist, you something that I think is really cool. And if you read even the book in the summer book club, that advanced plan, because it does help feed the good bacteria in your gut, people tend to, even though they're really limiting sugar and carbohydrates, after a few days, they tend to really have a dramatic increase in their overall mood. And so if you struggle with anxiety, depression, irritability, panic attacks, you want to look at addressing your gut and seeing how much that helps, because it's not just serotonin or dopamine, but also GABA, another hormone that is linked to all sorts of mood function, is affected by gut. Now, here's another one. And this is something to really think about. Well, I will say that I respect and appreciate all the different medical professions out there. One thing that I would say, when somebody says, how come you don't work well with my doctor on this? Typically my response is, the biggest issue is that we look at things differently. It's not that one person's trying to help you and one person's not. It's a flaw in philosophy, in my opinion. And ultimately you have to choose where you take your philosophy. But when people have things coming out of their skin, the single largest cause is detoxification or gut issues, or the single largest cause is, I should say, detoxification or gut issues. So why would detoxification come out through your skin? Like, acne, eczema, stuff like that. Well, your body has a variety of detox organs. And one statistic, if you've watched many of our master classes, that should sound familiar, is that when we have an onslaught of chemicals, whether it's the consumption of medications, food preservatives, breathing in pollution, whatever it might be, your body has specific organs that detoxify you. So you detoxify through your bowels. Your body tries to leave as much toxicity as possible in your intestines and eliminates it, through natural processes. You can all probably figure out what that is. But also you have your kidneys, which remove it through your urination. You have your liver. You have a variety of other detoxifications organs, but your largest detoxification organ is your skin. So if your body is overloaded and it can't get the toxicity out through those other causes, the most likely way it's going to get it out is through your skin. And so that's where people can have redness, breakouts, and a whole variety of different things, is that they're detoxifying through their skin. And so the reason I brought up medical professionals, whether it's your primary care doctor or a dermatologist or whatever, there are certain causes that they can find in blood tests or other things. But sadly, as you likely, if you're watching this, you already feel or you already know, a lot of current traditional Western medicine does not address the cause, it covers it up. So for instance, if you were going to put cortisone or corticosteroids on your skin, typically your skin is going to look better, but really all it's doing is shoving everything back in. So it's forcing the other detoxification organs to not only deal with a higher load of toxicity, but also the toxicity from the medication itself. And again, if you're using cortisone, if you're putting things on your skin, I believe that's truly a personal choice. And so we're not saying it's right or wrong, but it is linked to all sorts of other autoimmune diseases. And you start hearing people talk about irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, colitis, and a variety of other things, eczema. These things are typically your body pushing that stuff back out. And so if you don't mean to, and there are many other drugs when you start to get into things like psoriasis or something like that, that frankly are really, really harmful. In fact, in many cases, they're going to shorten your life to change the way that your skin looks, or they're potentially going to shorten your life to change the way that your skin looks. And like I said, they don't address the root cause. Besides toxicity, then, your skin, if you're putting chemicals in through your diet, you're going to run into a similar thing. Or if you're getting significant intestinal or gut inflammation from, for instance, something called leaky gut, which we'll address in a little bit. And what leaky gut does, for better or worse, it actually will over time potentially cause food allergies, even to healthy food or certain healthy foods. Like for instance, with small intestine bacterial overgrowth, certain really healthy foods can actually fuel that once you get to a certain point of imbalance. And so there are certain protocols, and I'll start with the first one, detoxing your body. So we have two different detox supplements. One that's gentle, that's meant to be taken daily over a longer period of time, which is our detox and digestion supplement. It's one of our foundational 3 supplements. It has a whole variety of things that gently bind and help your body detox. And it also has everything from enzymes to certain peptides that are going to help your body digest more effectively, process more effectively, heal the inflammation on your intestinal lining. And so if you're like, I just want to try something that's gentle, that, isn't going to make me run to the bathroom, but I think would help me, I want to digest better and I want to feel better, Detox on Digestion would be a very good starting supplement. In the very short term here, because actually a couple of these products are being discontinued and replaced with Detox and Digestion, we also carry one called Max GI, which is a little bit lower cost, and its main function is to kill off bad bacterial overgrowth. It's especially good if you struggle with bloating or acid reflux. But we'll go into some more of those supplements here in the future. So again, skin, covering it up with cortisone does not get to the root cause, may be necessary, or even some of the shots, pills, whatever. But skin is a reflection of your intestines and your body's ability to detoxify. Additionally, you'll hear this frequently, like hormones. Like I hear people say, like, man, I have low T, so I'm taking testosterone, or I'm taking bioidentical hormones. And again, maybe there is a time and a place for that. But while both of those certainly have certain benefits, they also may and can have certain side effects. You may remember, and some of those side effects for long-term use aren't fully known. In fact, going before they were bioidentical hormones in women, Women who during menopause took synthetic hormones had radical increases, or at least in my opinion, radical in cancer rates. So, again, not saying that you don't want to feel better, but what if you could feel better and prevent cancer better? And so, hormones are metabolized mostly in your liver. And so if you're giving your liver a bunch of processed food and you're giving it an onslaught, or your liver's not able to if it's overstressed, let's say, you maybe aren't going to metabolize these hormones as well, which can lead to significant changes in your mood, abnormal weight gain, fatigue, and a variety of other things. So if you feel like you have hormone problems, not surprisingly, diet, exercise, and chiropractic, quality sleep. The amount of hormones that are produced when you sleep, or the amount of good hormones you get when you decrease your caffeine, you decrease your stress hormones, and you get good sleep, is really, truly amazing. And in many studies, it absolutely outperforms some of the best drugs out there. So if you're not getting enough good sleep, if you're not detoxing, if you're not eating well, if you're not getting adjusted, if you're not exercising, you may have hormone issues, but they may not be genetic, or they may not be because of age. They may be because of what you're putting in your body, or how you're treating your body. So seriously consider that. And also, I want to mention that if you're struggling with any of this and you're an active client, we do specifically have as part of your program up to 2 complimentary sit downs with nutritionist Mackenzie to talk about whatever you might feel, whether it's dealing with allergies, whether it's dealing with acid reflux, whether it's dealing with brain fog or depression. She can likely shed some light on some ideas that could potentially help your body not struggle or not suffer with that as much. And so that would also be true for allergies. Allergies are an overreaction of your body. And so, one thing that for my entire career, so I've been in Max Living and chiropractic. I just celebrated 15 years of chiropractic. I believe I graduated 15 years ago last week. Knowing that, or pointing that out, one thing that's been consistent over my entire professional career is that, we all, if we're exposed to certain things, we all get exposed to allergens. So how come one person, sniffles and sniffles and sniffles and sniffles with spring and fall allergies, and another person feels fine, or has no allergens, or has light allergens? Well, one is the overall inflammation in your body. And so going back to that, another product that we carry is called Daily Detox, or the Detox System. And it's a 2-part system. So it's 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night. And what it does, the way I explain it most effectively, is it gets your liver to flush things, and then it uses binders so you evacuate that through your bowels. But the detox system, when I explained it to a 5th grader, what we talk about is, if you had a leak in your roof and water was dripping down, if you put a bucket there, you're really not going to get a puddle. You're not at risk for somebody slipping. And as long as that bucket doesn't fill up and overflow, you're going to be okay. Exposure to allergens, which have also been increased the amount of people who develop allergies through leaky gut, through the massive use of glyphosate with GMO foods, or Roundup with GMO foods, through, there's a variety of causes. Heavy metal exposure through many different causes, some of them preventative medical procedures. If you get immune sensitive, or if you start to get sensitive allergies and your bucket overflows, this is when you start to get miserable. And so there's 2 things that we recommend. The detox system, so today's Thursday that I'm recording this, and there was a gentleman who came in last Saturday, and he was sniffling nonstop. He bought the detox system, and by Wednesday, he was already sniffling radically less in 4 days. Now, is this saying it's a cure for allergies? No, it's saying you're decreasing the overreaction. You're decreasing the overload on your immune system by simply detoxifying or pulling some of these things out. So the detox system, detox and digestion, and actually another one, if you're dealing with seasonal allergies right now, is peppermint oil, which is another thing we carry. A couple of drops of peppermint oil on your tongue. Natural antihistamine, helps your body get that thick stuff out of your sinuses and really makes a significant change. Now, I mentioned this already, but it's like, well, how does digestion affect pain? Well, leaky gut, and I have a diagram for it here in a couple slides, but when you get bacterial imbalance or bad bacterial overgrowth, which very simply might be linked to something like having weeds in your garden or weeds in your lawn, at a certain point, if you don't take care of that, it overgrows. And I have no idea why, God, the universe, natural order, whatever you believe, but why God created a system where the bad typically can multiply faster than the good. There's just a reality that if you get too much bacterial overgrowth, it can take over. And so the good bacteria is not enough, the bad bacteria. And so when you eat, when you sleep, you just start to have these things where your body gets more inflamed. Another example of that, which I'm going to go over in another slide, is SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And the simplest way that you could tell that you have SIBO, even without paying, I think we do testing. So if you need to find out if you do, and the testing, I believe, is between like $500 and $600, but you can find out. But if you wanted to test yourself for SIBO without that investment, the simplest way to look at it is, do you react more when you eat healthy food? So do you get bloated? Is your belly stick out more at night than it does in the morning? And the 4 most common foods that will grow SIBO are healthy foods, ones that many people don't eat. So like cauliflower, asparagus, garlic, and onions. Those are 4 things. And so avoiding them can help, but if you don't kill off the bacterial overgrowth, as soon as you reintroduce those foods, it's going to continue. So at a certain point, there's a system that is important to do to kill it off. But joint pain, I mentioned joint pain in the hands. So joint pain in your hands, to me, that's kind of like your thermostat in your house. If your hands really start to hurting, unless you work very, physically, manually, like in a whole variety of professions, if you start having more pain in your hands, that's typically a sign of total body inflammation. So you want to look at your joints, but more you'd want to look at what are you eating, how much are you sleeping, how much are you detoxing, how much are you exercising, what are you putting into your gut, what are you doing to prepare it? Have you had an antibiotic recently, or have you had a lot of them in your life? Have you repaired your gut? But joint pain is often a symptom of systemic inflammation. And so looking at this slide here, if you can see it, and I know it's a little hard to see unless you're watching this on a large TV, but on the left of this slide, it talks about a healthy microbiome. And you'll notice the gut wall, which is called the epithelium. What it does is they're all touching. And so they're like a blocker. And so they only let certain things in when they want to, certain proteins, certain nutrients. Once it's broken down or digested better, what can happen when you get dysbiosis or leaky gut is you get holes, or you can have things slide by. So I remember like maybe 8 or 10 years ago when my wife and I did our first food allergy test, mine actually came back decent. I did have several things to work on, but what was crazy to us, as many of you know, my wife does deal with a skin condition, and she was on corticosteroids for a period of time in her life, which has really wreaked havoc. But when we started dating, then we got married and had kids, and we went like literally progressively healthier and healthier lifestyle, bone broth in the morning, or fruit and vegetable smoothies with a protein powder from Max Living. And we did this food allergy test, and literally 5 of the foods she was most allergic to were healthy foods: spinach, strawberries, almond milk, a variety of things. And what were they in? They were literally in the smoothie that she was eating every single morning. And so we were not eating Cheerios. We weren't eating, toast or whatever. We were literally eating healthy fruit and vegetable smoothies every morning, and it was making her more inflamed. It was harder on her skin because she had developed this leaky gut. And so what we did is a leaky gut protocol where she avoided the foods that she had food allergies to. And we do offer that test as well, by the way. So I think a food allergy test is a really good test. And then we do have a leaky gut protocol where you take certain supplements to kill off the bad bacteria. Then they call it like almost like a gut heal and seal. So you take certain supplements, certain amino acids that help seal your gut. And then over time, those gut walls will expand and they'll protect. And so then you don't have to have those food allergies. You don't have to be inflamed when you eat healthy. You don't have to have a lot of the problems that are created from that. And again, you can schedule a consult or you can send us an email at chiropracticfirst811@gmail.com. That's chiropracticfirst811@gmail.com. You could respond on the Facebook or YouTube channel, or you could, for those current clients that have this access complimentary, you could schedule that simply in the office or by calling the office. So here's some of the reasons why this is so prevalent in our current America or our current lifestyle. It's the fix is very much the problem. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you have acid reflux and you take Tums or Prilosec or an antacid, what you're doing is you're actually causing the food to go into your intestines less broken down. And when it's less broken down, you absorb less of the nutrients. It's harder on your intestines. It can increase leaky gut. And it's one of the reasons why, at least the last time I read about it, antacids or acid reflux medications had the 4th highest side effect rate of all drug classes, and specifically linked to cancer. So it's like the fix is a problem. Hey, I'm having acid reflux, so I take Tums every day and then I'm fine. That might be true, but you may not necessarily be fine. You might feel okay. Similarly, antibiotics. It's shown that I believe it's the National Institute of Health did a huge study in antibiotics, and they found that the safe amount of antibiotics to have in your entire life is 2 rounds of antibiotics in your entire life. And the average American consumes 1 round of antibiotics per year. So if you live to 78, on average, you'll have had 78 rounds of antibiotics, which destroy your gut bacteria, create huge inflammation, huge side effects. And not that I like talking about cancer so frequently, but you really should. That new Max Living book is phenomenal, and it goes through a lot more in this in a lot more depth. But really, what I'm talking about is if you have those antibiotics, they're linked to cancer. And that National Institute of Health or FDA study, I can't remember where it was from, showed that every antibiotic over 2 increased your risk. So it's not like it's set 2 or 78. It's like 3 is worse, 4 is worse, 5 is worse, 6 is worse. And so like coming into the winter here, I understand that you don't want to have sick kids or you don't want to be sick yourself. So starting to supplement with vitamin D to get your vitamin D levels up to decrease your immune system. Maybe doubling your adjustments. If you're a twice a month person, bumping back to once a week through the holidays when you're more likely to get sick. Or, oil of oregano is a supplement that's considered a natural antibiotic. Still a little hard on the gut bacteria, but not near as hard. And so we carry that in both liquid and capsule form. So are you prepared with your quote unquote holistic or natural medicine cabinet so that you don't cause problems that you're not even meaning to? Because I get it. Like if somebody has a severe sinus infection, who wants to be miserable day after day, not sleep, all that kind of stuff? But if you're taking it for non-life-threatening things, or if you're taking it proactively, like when, pediatricians so often give kids antibiotics for ear infections that are 90% viral, and they don't even test to see if it's a bacterial infection. The point of that, the fix is the problem. And then the last one to talk about, all these GLP-1s, which are a peptide, but on that same Joe Rogan podcast, I'm not stating which one it is because it was pretty like they swear a lot, frankly. They were on a roll. But you look at it, I get that GLP-1s are pretty cool in that they you could act the exact same and lose a ton of weight. But again, if you're not looking at it from what is this peptide which turned into a drug, it turns out, if you believe the people that I listen to, and I certainly, what's amazing is just like anything else drug companies get a hold of, we want to believe that they're doing it for our best, the most or the best for us. But actually, GLP-1s can be highly successful in a much lower dose, which radically decreases the side effects like muscle wasting or damage to your pancreas. They could still cause you to lose weight at a lower dose. And there's other peptides that can be done in conjunction that can protect against muscle wasting, a variety of things. But is that the way that doctors prescribe them? In most cases, no. In most cases, unfortunately and sadly, the drug companies run such a racket that most people go on the highest dose first instead of titrating up, which makes absolutely no sense. So if you love GLP-1s, if you want to lose weight, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but they do come with a plethora of side effects. And frankly, the dosage is the most concerning part, but they come with a plethora of side effects, including depression, lowering stomach emptying, muscle wasting, and a whole variety of others. And so they can suppress symptoms, but they cause more dysfunction. And as I said just a moment ago, Ozempic and GLP-1s, quick fix, but they also can paralyze your gut. I already talked about SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I want to talk about irritable bowel syndrome because, again, I just had a client come in the other day and they were like, yeah, it was ridiculous. My doctor said I don't have Crohn's, I have irritable bowel. And once I get done with the antibiotic they give me, there's a whole bunch of drugs that I can take to just not feel it. Now, do I want if I was running to the bathroom all the time, would I want a quick fix? Of course. But if you're not addressing the root cause of the problem, what you run into is it works for a little bit, but it causes so many others. So irritable bowel syndrome can be a neurologic issue. It can actually, many people believe, be a chiropractic issue, but a lot of times there's also gut involvement. And so trying to address that can make a big, big difference. Last thing, and then I want to talk about part of the fix or the adjustment. The concept that acid reflux is from too much stomach acid has very, very much been debunked. It can be caused by too little acid. It can be caused by poor motility, like from those GLP-1s where food's not moving through you, or it can be caused by valve imbalance. And so, acid reflux, again, max GI, detox and digestion. But I do want to cover, before we finish this first one, the gut reset protocol. So there is a 4-month, two supplements per month. There is a 4-month. If you're like, man, I'm on an acid reflux medicine, I've been taking Prilosec for 30 years, or I have irritable bowel syndrome, I have Crohn's, I have eczema, I have skin issues, I have brain fog, I have chronic pain, something to consider trying is this 4 R's gut reset protocol. And again, if you're going to do that, I would strongly suggest you meet with Mackenzie and she can go through how to do it, but it's very straightforward. It's 2 months of several different supplements: GI repair, GI replace, GI remove, GI replenish. And so, you're going to take these supplements in 2 parts at a time, removing or killing off the bad bacteria, repairing the intestinal lining, starting to replenish the good bacteria, and then using a spore-based probiotic to grow the right ones for you. I mean, it seems almost too good to be true that you could do this from a supplement protocol. And this is one of the few that, like I said, if you bloat, if you have reflux, if your belly's bigger at the end of the day versus the beginning of the day, I mean, you have such an opportunity to make a change and make it, pretty cost effectively. And so for those of you tracking the mystery words, the first mystery word is gut. So the first mystery word is gut, but really consider that 4 R's gut protocol: max GI, peppermint oil of oregano, vitamin D for your immune system, detox and digestion. Not all of these things, by the way, but a blend of some version of this to support you. Have a very blessed day.